Hi, Sheila. Nice to meet
How
you.
are you doing, Amanda? How are you keeping?
Very good, thank you. Are you guys ready if we want to get started?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
All ready.
Yeah. Okay, awesome.
What
Hi,
did
Nova
you? Are you
Scotia.
guys?
Awesome. And you guys, I see you're filling the chairs closer to the front and kind of filling in those seats as your students are coming. That's great. Awesome. Okay, so Sheila, I just wanted to start with introducing you as our guest speaker and running through a little bit of what you sent me in terms of a bit about you. And then we'll let you continue with your presentation, and Sandeep is going to click through the PowerPoint for us in our global class here, okay?
Perfect. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so guys, welcome to the global class. So today we're talking about community outreach, and we have, as I mentioned, Sheila Coyle is our guest speaker. Sheila has a master's degree, a master's of science, both in criminology as well as an MA in social research. She's currently working on her doctorate in education. In terms of work history and experience, there's a whole list of things Sheila's been involved in, but some key things I wanted to highlight is she's currently a lecturer, so she teaches on social care and community development out in Ireland. She's also worked with homeless populations in the past. She's worked with resettlement as a resettlement officer with women who have been released from prison. So vulnerable populations, lots of work with that. And then, of course, in terms of the volunteer work that Sheila's done, she's currently the chairperson of the Development Perspectives, which I saw that awesome documentary online. That was really, really cool. An 8-month experiential learning component with students going over to Tanzania, I think it was. Is that correct, Sheila?
Yeah, and we also linked in with Bare Feet in Zambia, so that's how I know. I know Ephraim and John there. There's for linking
Perfect.
in with brilliant Bare Feet. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So you're on the committee for Bare Feet Theatre, which has also joined us today to talk about some of their initiatives out in Zambia, Africa, which is so exciting. All right. So Sheila, I'll let you take the floor if you're ready to give us some of your information.
Perfect. That's great. So thanks a million for asking me to speak here today. It's wonderful to see everybody. So what I'm hoping to do during this class, so I'll be looking at some of the issues that are currently affecting people in Ireland. And I'd really love if, I guess, while people are listening, that they maybe think and reflect on the issues that are affecting people in your own countries. So if there's similarities or differences, it'd be great to discuss then. So in terms of, maybe we'll move on to the next slide.
Awesome. Yeah, and I was just going to check Nova Scotia and Zambia. Are you guys able to see the presentation? The PowerPoint?
Yep. Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
That's really
Good.
simple, right?
Okay, so
Right.
brilliant. So
Fuck you.
is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so in terms of the areas that I'll be looking at today are child outcomes. I'll be looking at homelessness, so in relation to the current context in Ireland. I'll be looking at crime, but I'm going to highlight domestic violence. So we're looking at domestic, sexual and gender-based violence. Then I'm going to look at mental health, and mental health is a big issue in Ireland at the moment, but I'm going to try and take a positive stance on it and give you examples of innovative ways that Irish academics are looking to support children who are experiencing mood and anxiety. So I'll be looking at computer-based interventions that support children. And also, I know from speaking to Amanda that you'd like me to look at something around creative methodologies, but I do think that Bare Feet Theatre are best placed to talk about this. They're such an inspiring and wonderful group, and I know I feel really privileged to have linked in with Bare Feet in Ireland and in Zambia. So I think when it comes to this stage, I'd love if Bare Feet will give some feedback there. And also, then maybe we'll have a brief overlook at some of the organisations that are guided by values of equality, sustainability, solidarity and partnership. And these are Development Perspectives, Bare Feet Theatre and also SUAS. And then if we've got time, I'm not sure if we will or not, maybe we can look at making rights real and bring it back to the Irish, Zambian and Canadian context. And just in case maybe I'm being a little bit too ambitious to expect to cover all these things, Amanda, feel free to ask questions from the students in Canada or Bare Feet Theatre, so it can be as interactive as you all wish. because I'm very interested to hear everybody's ideas on the current issues that are affecting people both in Zambia and in Canada. Okay, so maybe we could move on.
Yeah.
Yep, we're good.
Maybe we can move on to the next slide. Cool. Okay. So in terms of when I'm looking at child outcomes in Ireland now, this year is the 100-year anniversary of the 1916 proclamation, and that's also called the Easter Rising. So in relation to it's in relation to Ireland becoming, I suppose, an independent state, though it didn't become a free state till 1922. But in the last few months, there's been a lot of media coverage around the 1916 Rising, and I suppose we're talking about all the different positive developments that have happened in Ireland, which is brilliant. There have been many successes, such as life expectancy has increased, education levels have increased, and industry developments. But I think it's really important that we look at child outcomes over the past 100 years to really see if children are being treated equally in Ireland. And one of the different, there's many different assertions within the proclamation, but one of them is the Republic guarantees equal rights and equal responsibilities to all its citizens, and declares it resolves to pursue happiness and prosperity of the whole nation and to its parts, cherishing all children equally. And also some of the other assertions within the proclamation talk about religious and civil liberty, and also about equal opportunities for women too. Sorry. Next slide. Yeah. Okay. So just to give you a few different examples about, I suppose, opportunities and cherishing children equally. From 1922 to 1987, births had to be registered as legitimate or illegitimate. So within Ireland, there was quite a lot of judgment and stigma for children who were born out of wedlock, and the health consequences for children who were born without a father and mother signing the birth cert were, like, I suppose, lower education levels and less chance to get good employment. So there's vastly different outcomes if a child was registered as illegitimate. And also in terms of, if you look at Ireland over the past 100 years, children who are from poorer backgrounds or from travelling families were definitely treated differently. And also, like, a lot of the status was based on the wealth of people. So again, I think there is quite a lot of opportunity for children in Ireland, but I think sometimes the outcomes can be vastly different depending on their socioeconomic background. Okay, we can move on to the next slide. Okay. So again, if we're looking at different types of homes and laundries and orphanages that have been in place in Ireland for almost 70 years after 1922, mother and baby homes, Magdalen laundries, orphanages and institutions thrived, and there was sometimes quite horrific consequences for thousands of babies and their mothers. So I guess it's very, very difficult. Sometimes it's kind of difficult to describe and even understand the motives of some of the people involved. But I do think we do really need to be cognizant, as we can't apply the norms of a more affluent and mainly secular, better informed age to the psychological rigidity of Ireland back then. But I guess if just really thinking about it, and I know in Irish society it's quite sad to think that people who are the most vulnerable in society had such difficult pasts. And I guess the ultimate tragedy of this is this is supposedly the last refuge for the defeated and vulnerable, but we failed them as a society. And also physical and sexual abuse occurred in some of the schools, homes and institutions. And I think there's been quite a lot of allegations in Ireland, but there's been low conviction rates in relation to sexual and physical abuse. And I do think, though, we cannot forget, or we do need to remember that the good work of nuns and priests have done, like in the pursuit of social justice and economic equality around the world. And so it's important to highlight this, highlight the good work religious orders do, because sometimes sometimes maybe most of the time it can be quite negative when we think of some of the different religious orders. Okay, yeah, we can move on.
So far, so good.
Is that okay? Sorry, I'm getting a little bit confused with the stopping and starting and the moving of it, but I'll try to keep my concentration. So in terms of better lives, so in terms of children today, really, if you look at the different policies and legislation that are in place, there is a growing recognition within Ireland at policy level of the importance of early intervention and improving outcomes for children. And I really do believe that early intervention should be fundamental. It's really a key target for all education, health, housing, and even if you're looking at crime prevention strategies, the earlier we intervene, the better outcomes for children. So within the children's referendum, it's enshrined that the natural and imprescriptible rights of children. So that's been written into our Irish Constitution, and also children are safer than 10 years ago. So if we actually implement Better Futures, Brighter Outcomes, that's a national policy framework for children and young people. The lives of children will definitely become better in terms of a range of outcomes such as obesity, mental health, inequality and poverty. So it's really important that we have these policies and legislation, but it's even more important that we actually implement them. And in terms of, if we really are going back to have children's lives improved, there is free education in Ireland, which is really important and wonderful. But I do think that there's free education, but parents do have to pay for everything else, whether it's books, transport, uniforms, and some parents maybe aren't able to afford it. Also, levels of poverty for children in Ireland have doubled since 2008, and that's quite worrying. It's gone from 6% to 12%. People who are living in extreme deprivation. Well, it's relative depending on what country, but in relative poverty in Ireland, it's doubled. And children are stuck in direct provision. So children seeking asylum in Ireland may stay in direct provision to 5 or 10 years, and that's really abuse of people's human rights. And also more families are becoming homeless.
So Sheila, just to inquire about that there, because that sounds different than what we have here in Canada. So you said that education is free, but parents have to pay for books and everything, and that's going right from a young child through. Like for us here in Canada, like there's no cost to education through elementary school, high school, up until they get to post-secondary, of course, and then they're paying tuition and so forth. But that's different where you are.
Well, in terms of it, no, it's free education in terms of the schooling is free, but in terms of, and some children, if they're maybe from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, they mightn't necessarily have to pay for all the books and uniforms, but in general, the schooling is free, but people have to pay for everything else. So to actually go to school from 9 to 4 every day is free, but in terms of books, uniforms, which can be quite costly, and the parents pay for it.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So that's a difference. And you said that there are some newer initiatives that are supposed to be early intervention and helping with some of that now in the last 10 years.
Well, yeah, there's like after school clubs, there's say breakfast clubs, so for children who maybe are coming from backgrounds where they can't afford it, they have school meals. There is lots of different youth clubs that will work with the schools to support children who maybe can't afford it.
I see. Okay. Awesome. Thanks for clarifying.
So that was the first topic we looked at, children's outcomes, and now I'm going to look at homelessness, as Amanda had asked me to look at a few different issues that are affecting Irish society. So in relation to homelessness, Peter Father McFerry, who set up the McFerry Trust to support people who are homeless or risk at homelessness. So what in their strategy they state to have a place of home is in our view a basic human right. So again, he's suggesting that having a place of home is a basic human right, and he feels that without a place of home, people can actually lose their dignity. And the dignity of homeless people, he feels, is of highest importance. So Peter McFerry works tirelessly advocating for the rights of homeless people. And when we had different workshops with Peter McFerry, he came in to talk to people talk to the participants from a development perspective, and he said that the most important thing that we can individually do is to say hello to people who are homeless and treat them as human beings. And I do actually really believe within Ireland at the moment there is a growing sense of compassion for homeless people, but also people feel quite powerless as to what we can do to help. And Father McFerry also says that within these economically difficult times, it's even more important that we advocate on behalf of homeless people to ensure that their rights do not slip off the political agenda. And it's coming up to election times in Ireland at the moment, so that's even more important. Okay, we can move on. So in terms of within Ireland at the moment, there's I suppose a growing number of children and families who are becoming homeless, and I have a slide on that. I think it might be the next slide, but oh, sorry, it's this slide. Within the Dublin region, there's this slide here, yeah. Within the Dublin region, a number of families are losing their homes, and this has increased every month in 2015, and that was the latest figures for August 2015, but it has increased, and it's continually increasing at the start of 2016. So in August 2015, there was a 63% increase in homeless children. So again, within Ireland, families who are becoming homeless are classed as new homeless, because it's quite different, because in the past, when you think of maybe homelessness in Ireland, you might think of people who are suffering from extreme mental health conditions or drug addictions. But within Ireland at the moment, the family homelessness is growing, and that's due to lack of affordable private rented accommodation, rent allowance not accepted by landlords, and also extortionate rents. So the rents are quite high for the salaries that people are earning. And then, so in terms of, if we look at homelessness, what really needs to be done? I think there needs to be a reduction in poverty. So as I was saying earlier, there's been the number of children living in inconsistent poverty, meaning they are living both at risk of poverty and experiencing deprivation, has risen by 12%. So that's over double what it was 10 years ago. And Fergus Finlay, he's the CEO of Barnardo's. That's the main independent body that advocates for the rights of children, said that it's scandalous that a third of children are experiencing deprivation. And I suppose in Ireland, we do know the communities in which poverty and disadvantage are most embedded, but sometimes to a certain extent we maybe are turning a blind eye. So more good quality and affordable homes for people on low incomes. So we need more social housing in Ireland. Between, I think it was 2001, I'm not absolutely sure, to 2011, only 4% of the houses built were social houses. And we need better community supports for children and families, which can contribute to reducing homelessness. So you need supports for children whose families maybe are having who have different issues and maybe they're have lots of different issues, and then better support to assist homeless people to move into good quality secure jobs is also important.
Just chiming in on that. That's a similar issue here in Canada as well, just in terms of like structural and systemic issues that contribute to homelessness here. And one of the biggest ones is having like lower income housing for people that they can actually afford to live in, right? Yeah, same
absolutely,
sort of idea.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
absolutely.
we've got the same.
Right.
We got the same here in Halifax area. If you're talking about child poverty, we've slowly and steadily increased to the point where we're almost, just in the Halifax area, about 1 in 4 are classified as living in poverty, 22.6%. And we're having the same issues with social housing. We just had one of our major project developments get canceled because of government inaction for funding. So, we lost out on 90 to 100 units, just one portion of our community, just because one government was taking 2 years to do it and they finally gave up.
No one's saying anything. This is getting weird.
Sorry, Sheila, if you, you're welcome to continue, or if, I don't know if you wanted
No,
to.
absolutely. No, in terms of I think it'd be really, really interesting to maybe hear some of the students or Barefoot views in relation to homelessness within your own countries. If any students would like to maybe give a bit of their views.
Yeah, I think we match on the side of representing what could be some of the reasons as to why people are homeless here in Zambia. And in this case, mostly poverty could be one of the linking factors to leading people into homelessness, because if at all they do not have enough food at home or there is absolutely nothing to eat, then they would prefer going to live in the streets where just beg for food and beg for money, and they'll make it a home. So they would, of course, they would prefer going to stay in the streets and make it a home. Then we make that person more homeless aspect. So when I think poverty is also one of these, as compared to what Cher said and what other students said as well, and what the other lady said. So, yeah, it's one of the reasons. But it is, yeah.
Okay, so for Ephraim, with this poverty, you're saying is one of the main reasons.
It's one of the most contributing factors leading to people being homeless. It might be a different scenario as compared to other countries, because mostly here in Zambia, you'd realize that most of the people that are homeless are young people, as compared to maybe other countries where it's more on the aspect of like adults. So like here in Zambia, poverty could lead mostly because a child can't have anything to eat at home and they don't want to starve to death. So then they would opt to make a street a place where they find food. And because there's food, so those still want to live there so they can continue eating.
Yeah, no, in Ireland, in Ireland, where children would be homeless, it would be with their families, and they would be given a place to stay. It might be inappropriate. The place they've given, it might be in a hotel room. There wouldn't be proper access to washing, cleaning, making food. But wouldn't be any children, or I suppose legally it would be a requirement that our government, if somebody was a child and they're on the streets, that they're given a place to stay. So in terms of you wouldn't necessarily see, say, a child of 5 or 6 or 7 on the streets.
Okay.
And that would be the same here as well in Ontario. So that would be the same as Sheila, as you're describing. And yet I struggle with sort of the Band-Aid solutions that we have, like staying in a hotel or shelters or even food banks and things like that, because we're not really addressing the root of the issue, like whether it's literacy issues, which I think you've spoken to as well, or I don't know if you incorporated that, but literacy issues that, again, they kind of promote the perpetuity of this issue continuing, right? Because we're not really addressing that. We're just providing them a roof over their head. Same sort of idea. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know in sorry. I know in
Yeah, so
Ireland.
I mean, wait. So I mean, with us here, there's no free accommodation, because most of the orphanage centers, they are owned by private institutions. So there's nothing like, maybe if a child is on the street, someone maybe from the government or from others can provide the free accommodation. So it just be a private institution taking care. It's not mandatory that a child is on the street, is suffering, so someone can take care of them. So it has to be maybe someone from the private institution. Maybe they want to have a number of kids staying in the center. If the other center is full, meaning they can't take any more.
Yeah, and if they choose not to go to a child safe institution, then they'll have to find a house which they'll have to start renting, so they have to pay for it. So I think it's much on a different scenarios compared to other sites where there is that opportunity, but initially it's where you just have to pay. Like everything is like paid up for.
Okay. So if you don't have any way to fund this accommodation, you're in a very difficult situation, I guess.
Yeah.
You don't have a house, you don't have a home.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
to sleep in a drainage in the street
Yeah.
or under a bridge or
Yeah.
anywhere, but
Yeah.
not home.
It becomes dangerous for those that don't want to go into centers. They just want to make money on the streets. They become violent towards the people that walk at night and the likes,
Yeah.
because they feel the people that are walking in the night are threats to them, or rather they want to make money using them, so they would want to rob them or do something bad to them. So they become threats to the community instead.
Okay. And so I guess the children who are living on the streets are very vulnerable. And I know from my experience with Bare Feet that you do a lot of outreach work. Yeah, a lot of outreach work to support children on the streets, the most vulnerable children in society.
Yeah, and among us, John is the outreach officer, so he has a lot of information on that.
Yeah. Okay.
Just I think a week ago we had the camp here where we had the 15 children. I think we had 7 girls and the 8 boys.
Yeah.
For 10 days intense at the office. So recently, so all the girls they are at the center now. All the 6 of them now, they are at the center. So the center will provide their education for them. So they're finding a place where they can provide education.
Okay. So some of the some of the work. Sorry, I let you talk, Amanda. Sorry.
I was looking at the theater website, and you guys do a lot of amazing things. And I was just wondering, seeing that you guys do so much work with youth that are homeless, how do you actually get out there in terms of your outreach work? How do you get out there and actually connect with them and get them to listen to you? Because I do some work with youth here in Nova Scotia, and I find even working with teenagers incredibly hard. So I couldn't imagine going out there and just relating to children and how you do that.
Well, our channel of action basically is theater. So we take entertainment to where they are. This could be in the street. So we play with them, we teach them some skills. Like, of course you can have this background that is really rough, but when it's time for fun, you'd love to participate in it. So then they come together, and then we take them through a theoretical workshop or a theoretical intervention. And then the more they get interested and the more they participate, then we find a perfect space where we can sit them down, talk about the dangers of being on the street and how safe could it be for you to be in a place that can be called home. But we keep trying. It's not always successful, but we've had some success stories. So we use theater, we use entertainment to communicate to them and just inspire them to actually go to a place that's safe. The good part is that Bare Feet's most of the founders are ex-street children. So they're also known in the streets. So if they see them on the streets, they'll even cheer like, "Hey, you, we remember you, what?" And then if they give them all these positive stories, say, "Look, I've been here before and this is where I am now, you can also make it," then they get inspired. So it's not really just taking someone that has never been on the street and don't have any history about the street to be an outreach officer. We feel we use the people that they're more of an inspiration. So if you ask to say, how do we do it? We are more of role models to them, and we use theater as a tool to try to John is
Yeah.
he's very proud. John has lived on the street for many years, and he's a big testimony that he's no longer in the streets. He's living a very responsible, life. He's married, he has children. He's responsible. He's no longer that. But when they see him on the street, then they get inspired. So it's much on inspiration aspect and just giving them, positive information.
And most of the times, the public give these kids names like their thugs, their knives. So some kids, they take that, say, oh, I'm called these names, so let me use it. So that's why they are very vicious sometimes, because they like that love. So what we do, we give them that love they like from the public. So that's why we relate with them much, because they like that love. We chat with them on the street whilst they're looking dirty, stuff like that. So the public, they scroll their windows up when they see them, they do that. But as we go there, we hug them, then we chat, then we give them what they like from the public.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Just a quick question, Mike in Nova Scotia, for Sheila, and is it Ephraim?
Ephraim.
Ephraim, sorry.
Hi.
Relatively speaking, how are you? In Ireland, what is the minimum wage, and what is, say, a one-bedroom apartment? What would that cost? And as well for the folks in Zambia, if you have a minimum wage, what is that? And how does it compare to actually living?
Sorry.
Okay. In Ireland now. Sorry, Ephraim, you go first, and then I'll talk.
No, go on, it's fine. I just want to calculate the dollar currently in Zambia, because we use kwacha. You guys is euro, right?
It's euro, yeah.
So share is euro. Canada is dollar.
Canadian dollar.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Not that it's
And you
worth
guys
much.
is what?
Okay, well,
Okay, so just respond. Our minimum wage is $100.
Is that for a year?
That's like
A month.
a month. But of course, it's always different. Okay, it depends on the kind of a job that you're doing and your profession or your experience, who you are, where you're working. So then it becomes different. But just a reasonable job, like the job I'm doing as an artist here, I'll get 1,000 kwacha, like my monthly, salary. Yeah, so our minimum wage could be $100.
$100.
okay. And
Most
in
of them they
Ireland,
get less.
You can go ahead, Sheila.
Yeah, go on. Sheila.
okay. there's a delay, so something's difficult to know when to go. In Ireland, the average wage is just below 30,000 euros per year. So I'd say maybe around 28,000 per year at the moment. And if you're earning anything less than 15,000 euros per year, it'd be considered that you were living in relative poverty. The hourly wage is around, I'm not 100% sure, but it's around €9 per hour.
Canada.
And our minimum wage is about $10 an hour, which would work out to about $1,600 a month. And our poverty line is around $19,000, $20,000 a year.
Okay, so it's, I suppose, similar to Ireland, but I guess Ireland's wages are a little bit higher. And in terms of, you're asking me about in terms of renting and the cost of renting, it depends on where you are living. If you're living in the centre of Dublin, you won't find a one-bedroom apartment. So this would be for a single person for less than €1,100 per month. So it's very, very high, the rent. Whereas if you're living in different parts of the country, it might be around €700, €600. So renting can take up an awful lot of somebody's salary.
Now, what about Zambia, where is one bedroom a month?
Approximately it would be like $30. $30. That's the minimum for a one bedroom house. And then it also depends with where you're renting. It would be maybe if you're renting in a high quality place, it would even go up to maybe $100 or something for a one bedroom house because of some things they add up. But if it's in compounds like low class places, it would be maybe $30.
Yeah, well, what she meant when we talk about one bedroom house, to your side, maybe you'd consider there's a kitchen, there's a bathroom, there's what, but it's just 2 rooms. Where you enter is in the living room, then you go in the bedroom.
One bedroom house.
Yes.
No toilet, no bathroom, no nothing.
We wanted to add from Halifax, Nova Scotia too that I just wanted to point out that our wage, so for in Ireland, it's about $43,000 a year, whereas for us it's about $200. And I also personally lived on the other side of the country, so on the west coast in Vancouver, and their cost of living, not property, but renting, was about the same as here, but the minimum wage here is actually lower. So it's a big difference.
Okay. So it's quite similar in Ireland in terms of if you're living in the capital or living in the big cities, the cost of living is a lot more expensive than living in some of the smaller towns, but the wages are the same.
Yeah. Same here.
How about Canada?
Of like in our lower income areas, new developers are building higher level like apartments, so the rent costs in the lower income, we're so used to having it really low, but because they're new apartments, they're so much more, and they're just booting out our lower income people who are making minimum wage, and we're just not having anywhere to put them because the rent is so high that nobody can afford it.
Yeah, so very similar to Ireland.
Also, to add to that too, we just have a statistic here that says housing in 2012 in Halifax, we had 4,100 people who were in public housing, and an additional 1,200 people were still waitlisted because there's just not enough housing at all. So those people, of course, are experiencing things.
And it's so similar in Ontario, I would say. We're pretty similar to with Nova Scotia. And just in terms of, I wonder if moving forward to kind of what contributes to homelessness. So I know, Sheila, in some of your presentation, just as I'm looking ahead, you talk about a bit about domestic violence and things like that. And that's one of the individual relational issues that contributes to homelessness in Canada, as I'm sure elsewhere as well, right? Like vulnerable populations could be women and children who are fleeing homes like that. And then it's like, what do we do with them, and where can we house them effectively?
Absolutely. Okay, so moving on now, we're going to look at domestic violence, and as Amanda said, there is quite a lot of interlinking between domestic, sexual and gender-based violence and people losing their homes or finding themselves homeless. So in terms of domestic and sexual-based violence or crimes that really can occur in all social classes, all ethnic groups and cultures, among people of every educational background. So they really affect men, women, children and older people. So they affect us all. It's a universal issue. And also, I guess, also they're often hidden.
Just a reminder, so any of the guys, so Nova Scotia and Zambia, if you don't mind muting the microphone when Sheila's talking, and then when you want to talk, just unmute it, just because I think there's some crossover happening that Sheila is picking up on, and that's why you keep pausing, I think.
Thanks a million, yeah that's it, yeah, cool. Okay, so in terms of like they affect everybody, women, children, older people, and one of the main difficulties in how to deal with domestic or sexual based violence is that they're often hidden crimes that can have devastating physical, emotional, psychological, and financial consequences for, I guess, for the victims, but also for society as a whole. And I do believe within Ireland, and maybe it's the same in Canada and Zambia, and it'd be really interesting to hear about this, that there's a need for society to intervene to prevent this type of behaviour, to support the victims, and also to provide effective responses so that both the victims are supported and also those who perpetrate these type of crimes. Okay. So yeah, we can move on to the next one. Sorry, yeah. So in terms of it's the domestic violence and sexual violence are similar, but they're not identical. So in terms of domestic violence, can be sexual, it can be emotional, it can be physical. And I guess from just giving a bit of example about my experience from working with men and women who have suffered from domestic violence, they said that isolation was a key device that was used to, I suppose, make them so isolated that they had nobody to talk to. For example, where the abuser restricts communication between the victim and those people close to them. And also domestic violence often occurs and includes the use of children, the abuse of children, and as well as economic abuse. So controlling, intimidating behaviour, including threats and blaming the victim. So there are also forms of emotional abuse. And then sexual abuse often occurs in domestic context, but may also be committed against by a stranger. So sexual violence refers to assaults that have an explicit sexual nature, and these forms of sexual violence can be perpetrated by family members, by current or former sexual partners, by relatives, by acquaintances, by a variety of people in authority, and also by strangers. And I think the United Nations said the reason why domestic and sexual based violence are classed as gender based violence is because predominantly men and the victims are mostly women and children. So that's the reason why it's recognised as gender-based violence by the United Nations and in international discourse. So even though they're not identical, I think their similarities invite parallel and often, I suppose, identical and preventative responses. And they also share the sinister element of being hidden crimes. So they're frequently perpetrated by people of supposed trust, like people that are in close relationships with the person. And I also think because of these, I suppose, close relationships, it can actually be very difficult and challenging in implementing, suppose, actions or response to tackle it. Okay, yeah, so yeah, we can move on to the next slide. And if you think the main reason for, I suppose, talking about domestic violence here is because in Ireland domestic violence is misunderstood, and there's very little known about its prevalence or the perpetrators. And I'd say that might be quite similar in Canada and Zambia. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think around the world it is quite hidden. I don't know if people clearly understand what it actually is. So in Ireland, neither the Central Statistics Office nor the Garda, so that'd be the police, take any, I suppose, statistics on domestic violence. Although this will change it should change really in the next few months. It was supposedly to change in January 2016, but it hasn't happened yet. And just an example would be in 2014, the Garda Inspector Report found that crimes of domestic violence were often recorded incorrectly or not at all. So again, domestic violence often goes unreported. It's a universal experience, and statistics would suggest that maybe it's 1 in 5 women are affected by domestic violence. But I think it's really important that we don't always, I suppose, look at the negatives. We need to look at the positives sometimes. And within Ireland, the Irish government has finally approved the signing of the Istanbul Convention, which is that anybody who signs up to this convention must treat domestic violence instances as serious crimes. So this could be psychological violence, stalking, harassment, and they must also prevent domestic violence through awareness raising and education. So education is key. And so 38 European countries have already signed it and 18 have ratified it. So that's where we're at the moment. I just am going to give a brief overview. I won't spend too long on restorative justice, because I think restorative justice is an incredible tool, I guess, for restoring power to victims for serious crimes. But I do think in relation to domestic and sexual based violence that we need to be aware of the dangers of it. So just for everybody, restorative justice is an approach to justice, I guess, that focus on the needs of the victim. So it's all about the victims and empowering the victims. And so it's focused on the needs of the victims and the offenders, as well as those involved by the community. So there's many benefits to restorative justice. And the main benefit would be that it restores a sense of agency to victims. So it can be, I suppose, empowering. And within Ireland, it's mostly used in relation to youth justice, and it has been particularly effective in diverting youths from continuing on a life of crime. Okay. So again, it's a tool to empower victims, but needs to be managed carefully. Sorry. So yeah, it really does need to be managed carefully. And there is a lecturer in UCD, and she lectures in relation to applied social sciences. And what she was suggesting was that really care needs to be taken if you're going to use restorative justice around sexual violence, domestic violence, and also murder, where the victims' families are involved in the case. Okay. And if you think about domestic violence, maybe there's re-victimization or re-traumatization if you used restorative justice. So in terms of re-victimization, the concern will be that the offender is in the room with the victim, and maybe there's a glance in a certain way or a snide comment, so the victim feels like they're back in the situation, and that could be really devastating for the victim. And also there could be re-traumatization. Again, the power imbalance could be played out again in the room. So just from an Irish context, restorative justice isn't going anywhere. It's a really valuable tool, but without a coherent approach, the worry is that it could be equally dangerous if it's used in relation to domestic, sexual or gender-based violence, because you don't want the most vulnerable people to become victims again. Okay.
Just adding to that, and then I was curious, maybe from Zambia's perspective, if you guys, I don't even know if you keep stats or have stats on domestic violence or what that looks like, and same with Nova Scotia, there might be some students who have some placement experience maybe with this. I have one student who, at her placement, she was just going to explain a little bit about the population she works with, because she has worked with a little bit of restorative justice as well with her group. So I'm going to let Abby have the microphone for a moment.
Yeah, so I work at an all-boys group home who have been sexually offended. Some of the boys in the agency are sexual offenders themselves, but of course they're not like grouped in the group home together. So group homes are pretty much, I don't know if you guys have them, are when like you've come into the criminal system and then you can't live at home anymore. So we've placed you in a house with people in the same kind of, they've had the same problems, and you like live together and work through your problems. Mm-hmm. So I know with some of the boys at the group home, they're all youth, so all under the age of 18 and as young as age 8. So we do restorative justice with them sometimes, depending on if we think it's going to be beneficial for them. Like you said before, sometimes it won't be, but it is to try to prevent them from feeling like a victim all the time and always having like the victim's mentality. Mm-hmm. So, and I know also here in like our public schools, we use restorative justice, not in that kind of a way, but to teach kids at a young age that to try and solve your problems this way, you can try and use this. So we do use it from time to time, depending on the situation and what has happened to the kids. And we have seen some benefits from it.
And that's part, I guess, of early intervention, as you were speaking to earlier as well, Sheila, right? Like being able to intervene at a young age so that it's not something that perpetuates itself into adulthood, hopefully.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. They're very interested to hear about what's happening there in relation to youth offending. Yeah. Okay. So again, in terms of very, very interesting to hear the views there in relation to how early intervention is used from a Canadian perspective. In terms of, just to give you an example in relation to Ireland and how we've, I suppose, developed, there's quite a lot of work in relation to the National Office of Prevention for Domestic and Sexual Based Violence have produced guiding principles for public awareness raising of domestic violence and recommends that the focus should be on the perpetrator's behaviour, choices, actions and accountability. So rather than, I suppose, suggesting that the victims speak up, we really need to, I suppose, put in place and make the offenders aware that they're going to be severely punished and they're accountable for the crimes. And also, Women's Aid would be the main organisation in Ireland that trains social workers, community development workers, childcare workers on how to support women and children affected by domestic violence. And they've got lots of campaigns. And one of the main campaigns at the moment in Ireland is called Don't Be Afraid. But this actually focuses entirely on the victims. And this would maybe be a little bit of a contradiction as to what CUSC would suggest, because if the campaign was focusing, I suppose, specifically on the perpetrators, the campaign might say, be afraid, you're going to get caught and you'll be seriously punished. So Women's Aid are an amazing organisation, and then the National Office of Prevention of Domestic and Sexual Based Violence have developed loads of different principles to support people. But in terms of the way they work, sometimes they may take different perspectives on how to deal with these type of issues within society. So maybe we'll go back to the class for a few minutes, see if anyone has anything they'd like to add or discuss in relation to domestic violence, or I can continue on with mental health, whatever is best for everybody.
Maybe we can just give also how it is right here in Zambia as well. When it comes to gender-based violence, it's really one of the big issues that are affecting communities, marriages and things like that. Is that we in Zambia mostly it's understood that a man is always superior than a woman. So a woman will always submit to the husband. Sometimes even small things that don't make any sense, a woman could be beaten. And then of late, there wasn't anything that was more of an action, what could be done. But then now we have the victim support unit that is much into, trying to reduce and stop gender-based violence issues. So it's much on the police aspect, all right? So it is there, it is running. But then I think people are still really working too hard to make it come to an end. And the police and the government is also putting in so much effort and putting in so much policies to see that it comes to an end. But of course, it is really a big thing, especially gender-based violence. It's really, really high.
And I think it's even more difficult towards the I would say the low-class people. When the woman is beaten by their husband, they're mostly afraid to go and report to the police, even though they know their rights and they know it's part of their rights for them to go and report. They would be scared maybe to say, if I report my husband, he would be arrested and my kids would suffer. So mostly poverty contributes more to the women not reporting their husbands, because they feel maybe my children would run away from home and become street kids, or maybe I would suffer if my husband was to be arrested. So they endure the pain of gender-based violence instead of just reporting and the likes.
And also families as well. If the woman reports the husband, all the family will raise against that woman, say, yes, how can you report that? We can, those are the issues we can sort out within the family.
Yeah. And also if at all the husband is being arrested, and then if at all is released, of course there is that fear that maybe they might even divorce.
Yeah.
So maybe they've been married for many years and she has a lot of kids and maybe she's grown already. And you just feel like, okay, I'll just enjoy it. Like, this is marriage, So I can just, it's so good. Like, it's fine. Yeah. But
Sometimes she'll get used. Even at night, she should go to the husband that today are you not
are you not
beating me?
beating me? Yeah, light moment. Light moment. Yeah, but there's a lot of sensitization going on. There's a lot of idiots. There's a lot of performance communities, to sensitize and just make the gender-based violence thing come to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is here, and people are working so hard to make it come to an end. And I think it's much gradual. It's much gradual.
So it sounds great that there's some efforts being made in that regard, and I think some of those same fear factors are consistent with what women would experience here as well, maybe to a lesser extent, but definitely that fear of, the consequences of going to the authorities and, how far will it get them? Will their children be taken away? So there's a lot of those same fears. What I'm curious about as you're describing that, in terms of the victim support unit that you now have in Zambia, and just in terms of gender roles and career options, then, is the victim support unit comprised of both males and females? Because I wonder if that would make a difference. Like, if most of the police or the people who are working for the victim support unit are themselves male, then I could see women in your country being even more concerned about coming forward. Or are there women supporting women, or just how is that dynamic?
So the victim support unit is police. It's like, the police is much on the controlling aspect of the victim support unit, and they accommodate both male and female. But then you see, if a man is beaten at home by the wife, he will be, he's not going to report that, look, my wife was beating me and stuff like that. So, but then they accommodate both sides. And then with the police as well, sometimes there's a lot of these questions, like, is it true? Are you sure? Because if I tell you're lying, then you'll be arrested instead of your husband or instead of your wife. Yeah, but maybe just respond is that it's in support of both gender. It can either be male or female, they're both accommodated.
I see. And yeah, I think, again, similarly here, we would have, men would be less inclined, less likely to come forward and report being abused by their wives as well, although that's something that I think we're working to support more as well, because it can happen both ways, as you're describing. And in terms of what Sheila was talking about, the re-victimization, I mean, that definitely could happen if a woman is coming forward and they're being challenged with those questions, like, are you sure? Because you'll be charged otherwise. And that's the same sort of experience that women in our country might have as well, which again perpetuates sort of sweeping it under the rug, so to speak, or keeping it a hidden thing behind closed doors. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
I was wondering, in Zambia, if the woman did report her husband beating her, does she have a safe place to go? Like in Canada here, we have shelters that would take an abused woman in to keep them safe from their abuser. Is there an area there that they can go to?
We don't have anything, but I'm sure the government is still working on it, because the system is just coming in place. Like, it's not really very active because it's just coming up, but at the moment we have nothing like that.
Like, the safest place they can go is the police. So the police, they go and arrest the husband so that the woman can be safe at home. But there's nothing like a safest place where we can take these women.
They're not protected from the family or anyone else apart from the husband, who is the culprit.
So would they have to go back home after they arrested the husband? Or would the police keep them safe?
Yes. They have to go back, but then this husband is coming from a jail cell, and maybe is really upset with the wife. So also the family will also be involved into it. Feel like maybe their child very maybe she goes to her family house and wait until they can have a mutual understanding and talk about whatever the differences were. But we don't have an institution where a wife can go to and like being home or being at her family home. Thank you.
I know that here in Canada, if a woman reports that she's been like with domestic violence, you can't, even if I went back to the police and said, no, it actually didn't happen, the police still have to lay charges. You can't take that back here. So you can't report it and then say, no, like I'm scared now and I'm scared that what he's going to do. Once you've reported domestic violence, the police have to follow through, and they will follow through. And if it does turn up to be a true thing, then charges will be laid. So that's another thing here in Canada, that there is always that support. So once, and even if you were to report an anonymous tip, the police have to investigate that and will. They have to act on anything reported. So that's just another, like, a little bit of a safety net, knowing that if a woman were to report it, or even a man, that they can't go back on it, and it will 100% be investigated, and there is a safe place to go while you're waiting for something like that to happen and go through.
Is it the same out there in Nova Scotia, I would imagine?
Yeah, it is pretty similar to that. I do have a question in terms of the police in Zambia. In terms of the police, what do people like on the street think of them? Because I know, as someone, like I said, who works with street youth, and as someone who was a street youth on the street, the way I got brought up, I did not trust the police around here. And I was just wondering, in Zambia, is that also the case? So, for example, if a woman would call the police, would they be scared to call the police? I don't know, like, yeah. What are your thoughts on that? Yeah, are the police biased? Is there trust issues?
Well, it's a little bit different from you guys. Here, the police are not friends to civilians. All right. So if at all the case is at the police, then you know that you're not safe. So then there is no that link. There is no that connection, because they're just not so friendly. I think policemen are known to be harsh, to be not really violent, but really corrupt, and very corrupt. Because you see, if I committed a crime to John, and I report the police, and then John goes there and bribes them, then I'll be in the wrong. I can even go to jail for that. So it's not really that friendship in civilians and policemen really not strong. It's not too strong. It's safe if you report the police, they'll take action, but sometimes the action
take too
long, and you can be in the cells for a week, and you don't go to court to be proven guilty or not guilty. So the system is not too strong, but in other aspects, in other areas, I think it works, but it's not too strong.
Yeah, I think also mostly the well-to-do people like got a bit of cash, they get away with the crimes.
Yeah.
So if a high-class person does something wrong to a low-class person, it means the low-class person would either not be taken seriously, or they would be jailed telling the truth. Yeah. So it's more of biasness than like genuine business.
They're not bad people. That's at some time.
Poverty level, we said, yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, and I know I've heard you guys talk about class being a big factor there in Zambia, and I remember when I watched the little clip about Bare Feet Theater, there was a mention that even art is more of a privilege. So it's something that's available, readily available and accessible to, I guess, the upper, higher classes, but not so much to the lower class, which is why you guys came up with this initiative in terms of engaging theater and other expressions of art with people who wouldn't necessarily have access to it otherwise. And I'm curious, with that, have you, like I imagine it's well received by the people who you're targeting. Do you receive any backlash or like that from the upper class, or is it something that's well supported by Zambia in general?
That's a good question. Thank you so much. So now, because some organizations, some like non-government organizations, they've realized that this is much on the rising level. It's really a problem. They're trying by all means to educate, to sensitize more. So an example, we were working with the Ministry of Justice in a project called Access to Justice, is where we make the community understand their rights, what they can do and what is not to be done to them. So of course there is steps that people are taking, and with the tool of theater, I think it's much also helpful because it's much on the education and to other people. So of course there is some stuff going on to try to make it work out, and hence the formation of the organization.
And we are also supported by both the lower class and the higher class, because our theater communicates mostly to both classes. So we have some performances that we do basically for the people on the lower class, maybe to educate or send a certain message, or maybe if we know there's a challenge between the higher class and the lower class, so we go to sensitize either the lower class to educate them or the higher class, but both accept us. There's nothing like rejection from any of them.
Yeah, also we try by all means to have as many communities as we can sensitize, so that they can, we give them platforms, they can also talk issues affecting them. We say that higher class or lower class. So we try by all means to target both groups.
Yeah, thank you.
And Sheila, I'm mindful of our time because we are coming close to the end. So I just wanted to bring it back to you and see if there's any sort of final words or topic that you wanted to address before we do wrap up. It's been a really rich conversation involving all parties. So.
Yeah, it's been brilliant. What I'll do is I'll just briefly go through the topic on mental health, and then hopefully we'll have a few minutes at the end to wrap it up, or if anyone has any questions. Okay, so in terms of mental health, by 2020, the World Health Organization estimates that major depression will be the leading cause of disability, accounting for 30% of total disability. So I think within Ireland or within the world, we can't disconnect our minds from our bodies. They're both interrelated. And how people feel is not an elusive or abstract concept, but a significant public health indicator. So if somebody's feeling down, it's going to impact them physically too. And I was just doing a bit of research for this, and when I was looking at it worldwide, more than 30% of countries have no mental health policy, and over 20% of countries in the world have no mental health programs in place. And even countries that do have mental health policies often disappointingly neglect some of the most vulnerable populations. For example, over 80% of countries have no mental health policy for children and adolescents. And just bring it back to Ireland, the facts about mental health in Ireland: 1 in 4 people experience some kind of mental health problem in the course of 1 year. Suicide rates for males has doubled in the last 30 years, and the number of children with statements of educational needs who are expressing emotional and behavioural problems are increasing. And also in terms of if you're looking at mental health within youth offender groups, there's a study by Hayes and O'Reilly, and they found that 37% of young people are experiencing separation anxiety or generalized anxiety disorder, and also around 67% of people within youth offender institutions are exhibiting conduct disorder. And that's obviously, it's something that we really need to look at within our criminal justice system, because so many people are experiencing mental health problems, behavioural issues, intellectual disability, you would question if institutions or prisons is the best place for them. Sorry, you can move on to the next slide. And then in Ireland, if you're going to even look at it from an economical perspective, stress-related absence from work accounts for half of all sick leave. Early retirement due to stress burnout is increasing, particularly within the public sector. And then 15% of GPs' time is spent. Yeah, 15%, around 15% of GPs' time is spent on frequent attenders for whom medicinal treatment is largely inappropriate. So again, within Ireland, there's serious deficiency in the quality of mental health services, especially in relation to the differences between if you're a public health patient or a private health patient. So the actual experience is vastly different. And stigma does continue to be a major issue for people with mental health problems, though it has less in the last 20 years. And if you look at Ireland in terms of the amount we spend on mental health care in Ireland, it's only 6% of our healthcare budget, and that's actually relatively low compared to other countries within Europe. So again, if it's affecting around 25% of people in 1 year, it doesn't seem enough to be only spending 6% of our budget on it. Okay, so this is a really positive development in Ireland. It's called Pesky Nats, and it's transforming adolescent mental health interventions through technology. So this is a computer game created by 2 Irish academics, and is proving highly effective in helping anxious or depressed children identify and manage their feelings. So I guess it links with disciplines of developmental psychology, clinical psychology, and computer-based computer science, and it really is to support and delivery of child-friendly CBT intervention. So again,
Sheila.
Yeah.
Sheila, I just have to say, because this was one of the things that I checked out. It's some of your brother's work. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's absolutely phenomenal, and maybe you were going to speak to this already, so I might be premature in asking, but is this something that's available, accessible? It's not something that's going to cost somebody money, so it's only for people who can afford it, kind of thing?
No, it's readily accessible. It's free. In terms of it's accessible to people in the UK, America. If people in Canada would like to use it, I'm sure that would be absolutely perfect too. So it's a non-profit organisation, and it was set up by people who really feel that there needs to be something there for children who are experiencing anxiety and depression. So again, if you go online, I've put up the links. You can actually look at the workbooks. You can look about how to get training for it, etc. Okay. Does that answer your question, Amanda? Okay. So in terms of, I was going to show you a few computer clips, but I think what might be best is, due to time, we might actually continue on. So in terms of, this is an activity I was going to ask for everybody to do if we've got time. So it's how can we make rights real? So in relation to in Ireland, there's the Human Rights and Equality Commission are currently preparing its first strategy statement to cover 2016 to 2018, and they've got 5 goals. And the goals in relation to this are leadership, proactive approach to monitoring and compliance, interdependence of civil, political, economic, social and cultural rights, making rights real, and intercultural understanding. So in terms of all these goals, I'm wondering how can we effectively deliver on these goals in Ireland, but also if you're looking to a Canadian or a Zambian perspective, how would you actually deliver these goals? And sorry, you can move on the slide. Okay, so in terms of the group activity would be how can we make rights real in Zambia, Ireland and Canada? And also, how do you believe that we can most effectively deliver on these goals? So
Yep, so I have one student. I just have to get the microphone over to him. Or Christian, if you can come to the microphone. Just over at the other side there.
Roll around.
So, hi. So for leadership, we recently just had an election, and we voted in Justin Trudeau, and he's and the way our parliament works is it's kind of complicated, but essentially like he has a lot of power.
Yeah. He's a leader of our country.
Yeah, he's the leader of our country, but there's essentially, the opposition isn't going to, doesn't have as much of a say, per se. But his whole thing is that, he has, 50% of his ministers are men and 50% are women.
Yeah.
So, I feel even just by voting him in, we've already kind of shown that he's gender equality, and that he's stated that he's a feminist and believes in gender equality. So I feel that even just that we have band together and said let's go for sorry, yeah.
Yep, so that's one example, definitely.
Okay.
And I mean, Nova Scotia would be aware of that too.
I think one of the biggest I think one of the biggest things that we can do, at least here in Canada, to make rights real is having kind of some responsibility and ownership of the marginalized communities and people that we have here in our country. A lot of the things that are happening in terms of poverty, low-income housing, unfortunately, they do affect certain marginalized communities. And the first thing that we should do is have, take responsibility that we did that, and then work on, harm reduction approaches to addictions and homelessness, as well as housing first. But before we do anything in terms of making rights more real, we have to own up to some of our discrepancies in the past and work through those.
Great point, Nova Scotia. And I think that comes along with reducing stigma, as you're saying. And in terms of harm reduction services, definitely in terms of providing non-punitive approaches for treatment, right? Whereas historically it was more punitive. Yeah, great examples.
Okay, so what I will do now in terms of, I guess from an Irish perspective, I've gone through the different goals and I guess how I feel we could meet the goals within Ireland. So in terms of leadership, I think you can move on the slide. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, the next slide again. Perfect. So in terms of leadership in Ireland, I guess, in my opinion, there isn't nearly enough attention put towards making Ireland more equal by governments, NGOs, by funders, civil society activists. And in terms of gender equality, the Irish Constitution is one of the oldest constitutions in Europe, and the Irish Constitution was drafted solely by men and contains a number of provisions which directly or indirectly raise gender concerns. And I do believe it undermines our international credibility if within our Constitution we don't have equal rights, or it doesn't state that there's equal rights for women and men. And in terms of promoting awareness, there's some interesting initiatives in schools internationally around empathy. And in terms of influence, this seems to be an extremely powerful one. So I think if we put programs around empathy into all schools, I think that influences, regardless of parental, media, cultural influences, will really result in people being more aware of the world around them and being more kind to people. And in terms of promotion and protection of human rights must start and be sustained locally. So I do think that it's really important that our education systems, that our media, that our government is equal. And I also think that it needs to be locally sustained. And in terms of interdependence of civil, political, economic and social and cultural rights, I think until recently the majority of people in Ireland didn't really see a connection between economic and migrant equality, for example, let alone rights. And now people can trace the path within their heads, well, most people. For example, if I give an example of Dublin City, educational outcomes are quite varied depending on your geographical location. The results on many occasions, this results in many occasions in a vicious cycle. So in terms of the outcomes like in relation to healthcare, in relation to education, in relation to in terms of housing. And so you can't have strong family and cultural ties if your parents are working long hours and low paid jobs and the children are in school with low retention levels. So there's no upward mobility. So people can be too busy surviving, too stressed to actually pay any attention to the political system. So effectively, I believe it's this story that's helping people see the bigger picture and the interdependence of rights. So I think in general, everybody's interested about one of these rights, but if people can see that they're all linked together, I think we might be able to come on board and realise that all these rights are very important. And then making rights real. So I think the issue of rights can often be reduced to big things like democratic rights. Hence, the politics of these are overemphasised with what people need to maintain a dignified life. So my reference to dignified life is important, I guess, considering that in the 21st century in Ireland, we still have people who do not have equal access to healthcare, education, housing. And an experience that I've had was working within the homeless community, and it was I was sad to witness the inadequate treatment of people who were experiencing severe trauma, and that really did make me question how effectively our government is spending the state's money when a homeless shelter is the best option for someone who's suffering from a severe mental illness. So again, as I was saying earlier within the presentation, there seems to be there is a vastly different experience for people on private and healthcare within our system in Ireland. And also, a few years ago, I had the opportunity to travel to Palestine, which really broadened my understanding of human rights abuses, both at home and overseas. And also the ramifications for society when people's rights are not upheld. And like on this trip, I was very, very lucky to have visited many groups who are fighting for justice. And one of them was the Ada refugee camp, which runs youth centres within the camp, working to empower Palestinian children in a form of non-violent resistance by providing alternative activities for creative expression and positive change. So in terms of the type of work they did, it was quite similar to Bare Feet Theatre. And I do believe that in Ireland we could look to Bare Feet Theatre, we could look to the Ada refugee camp, and we could benefit from using their examples within an Irish context. And then moving on, we nearly finished in relation to understanding intercultural awareness. I think we can only really achieve greater intercultural education if there's exchange between young people in particular. And I think it's important to stress the fact that that these things really, really need to start at a basic level where children can exchange ideas, get to know themselves. And that is people from all over the world exchanging ideas and knowledge. We're all learning from each other, we're all experiencing. And a good example of this is the One World Youth Project. And one of the aims of this project is to give an opportunity to young people from different contexts to exchange ideas and values and knowledge. And I think this is more achievable now than ever. An example like the Global Classroom here, with easier access due to there's easier access to internet and Skype, etc. And then in terms of, lastly, I was just going to really, really briefly look at Bare Feet Theatre, Development Perspectives and SUAS. But I think it would actually be best to get a few Bare Feet's views, because I don't think we have enough time to go through all the different organisations. So maybe I'll go back to Amanda.
Sure, yeah. So that's, sorry, that's great.
I do apologise, I flew through the last slides.
That's okay, no worries, that's okay in terms of timing and stuff. Yeah, no, I think those goals make sense. I think the struggle is definitely getting, the people in power on board, and then it's more, as we know, it's maintaining or sustaining those changes happening, right? I think our society is really great with coming up with short-term kind of Band-Aid solutions, which we have plenty of, but it's being able to sustain and to address more the root of the issue. And I think those struggles are kind of worldly, right? I think each of us on the screen can speak to those same issues. Yeah, so I don't know if Nova Scotia has any concluding thoughts, or if Zambia wanted to chime in and share any concluding thoughts, or that you want to impart onto us as students. I think the Bare Feet Theatre Project is so incredible. I was really, really inspired by it, which is why we really wanted to do this global class with Sheila and with you guys. So if there are any lasting words, we'd be happy to hear.
Yeah, well, so sorry you guys, right now it's raining here in Zambia. It is really heavy, so there's lots of thunderstorms going on. Just in case you hear brrr, don't run away, we still need you. Yeah, so a massive thank you as well that you guys considered having us on this chat. But we also feel that in how we can make, you know, these rights real is that at least we need to continue doing some public awareness. You know, if it means posters, if it means community performances, banners, and stuff like that, we need to continue doing that. And also we need to, you know, we need to make it known to people where to report these issues to, because most of the people just don't know where to report. Yeah, and create a platform where everyone can be free, you know, to talk about issues that affect them. Like, it's okay, you can talk about it, and continue, you know, these intercultural, you know, experiences where we can have people from Canada coming here, people from Ireland, people from anywhere, they come here, and people from here go there, just get to learn about how things are done the other side. And then we can always share different ideas and our community place for everyone.
We need to dwell much in a platform, their rights of how they've been brought, meaning they, if it be brought up in that way, they don't know that's a right. So we need to dwell much in terms of awareness and creating a platform so they know really what's their right.
Yeah.
Oh, Shira, again, what's the link?
Pardon?
The link you shared here on. For the mental stuff.
For the difference. Oh, sorry, it's on the presentation. As far as I'm aware, the presentation is up on the global class, but I can also send you the link, John. I can also send you the presentation. I can email it to you.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
So I guess on behalf of our class, this global classroom was really awesome and really great for us to learn how there are similarities in our social issues around the world, but there's also vast differences, and how that we are all working on different initiatives and different things to all try and achieve this same goal or similar goals or even very different goals. I think just even speaking for myself, it was really great to hear just how things are different, yet we are all still kind of working to achieve the same thing. So thank you, and it was really great to learn all about different things and talk to people on different sides of the world.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a million.
All right, until next time, guys?
Cool, thanks so much. See you later.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye. More fire.